have been part of the Power Rangers for quite some time, fighting a countless of different enemies over time. Kimberly and her friends were getting used to be as one of those local heroes, even they knew they couldn't tell anyone about their special alter ego as the Power Rangers, because they knew if they did, it not only put themselves but their friends and even their family in big risk. If the enemy would find out who they are as real people behind the mask. Even though that the high school itself was getting better over the years and time, despite that she had to try to figure out to balance between being a Power Ranger and a regular high school student. But the fact that it was just getting well for her though, except for one small thing. Other of her friends who were not part of the Power Rangers, she had noticed some of the other friends had actually started dating some of the other boys or girls from school, except Kimberly, or her she's preferred as Kim by her friends, had been feeling lonely. Despite having a lot of support from her friends and even her family, but there was something that she wanted to be had the most, and had that was someone to be dating. She had realized for some time now she was actually preferring girls. But it was only one particular girl that she had her eyes on, and that was her teammate member, Trini Kwan. Trini was so unlike her. She was very outspoken, she loved to perform things with her friends. Like she was so good in martial art and she was a really outspoken person. Even though that Trini had been often asked out by some of the guys from school, but she always declined it. Even though Kim had no idea why Trini had declined every single offer by the guys. Some of the guys was actually from the football team, the soccer team, and some of the guys was in fact quite handsome. So why did Trini deny or decline every single offer? And especially when prom was getting closer. Since prom was only about a week away. And during that time, she had been offered to be their several guys' special date for the prom. But she has always declined the offer. Even when Kim asked her during lunch why she hasn't been found anyone to be with for the prom. Even though she expecting Trini to go to the prom with some guy, or at least maybe, or just perhaps with some friends. But she would said that if she was only had her eyes on one particular person, but she was afraid how this particular person would react if she told this person. But she tried to convince Trini to tell this person that maybe even despite this person may not like her back in the same way, or maybe Trini should tell this person how she feels. Even though Trini itself already knew what the answer would be. Because she was a bit scared how to tell this person, she said. And even Kim asked who this person is, maybe she can help her. But it was something that where she had no idea what to respond to. But Trini said she didn't want to tell Kimberly, not yet at least, because this was something that she had to try to figure out a way to tell. So, and as Kim as one of her close friends, she agreed. Despite knowing she wanted to know more about this particular person, but after all, there was a lot of students at this high school, and then many guys had been declined offer to be dating her even before the prom was announced, and even before prom had been going to happen. So she wondered, could this be a girl? But there was something in her mind. Even if it was going to be a girl, Trini was going to be. Perhaps that was the reason why Trini was nervous, how because maybe that she had even told anyone about her feelings for another girl. And she perhaps even came in her mind thought, what if Trini was liking a girl and that she had no idea how her friends would react? If they would somehow react her as a friend or support her. Which in Kim, which she could perfectly understanding. She wanted to be there for her friend Trini. But when she, though later that afternoon, before leaving school, when she went to her locker, she finds a note. And the note had only a few sense or few words, says, meet me behind the school, but there no name signed for it. No even that. But Kimberly immediately recognized the handwriting. It's in fact Trini's. After all, they usually sometimes spend their afternoons together, either on weekends or even doing some homework together. And she had always remembered the handwriting of Trini. And she had no idea what she wanted to talk about this time. And if it was something that she wanted to talk about, why didn't she mention this during lunch break or earlier? Nevertheless, for her though, she went behind school. Trini was sitting there waiting for Kimberly. And Trini could still be seen quite shaken up. And Kim thought maybe that Trini had been in a fight with someone. And that was she was or maybe been bullied. Because she had been someone had found out she likes girls. And that she had been bullied for that. But it wasn't even like anything like that. Because when Kimberly asked her if someone had been hurting her or bullying her because if she likes girls, Trini looked at her friend and she was said no. And how did you find out I like girls? She asked. Kimberly said it was just a random question, I think. I mean, something I. She almost had a feeling that she liked girls, but she wasn't even sure herself. And she asked about this note. What is it that she wanted to talk about? The reason was that she wanted to tell her behind school. It was because that if no one else would overhear them, she would ask Kimberly if she wanted to go with her to the prom as her date. Kimberly was shocked, even though despite that Trini was one of her close friends, but she would never reject her because of that. And in fact, even it felt like an eternity. It was only a few seconds when Trini thought maybe that was a bad idea when she was about to leave, but Kimberly stopped her and said that she would like to go with her to the prom as a date, because it was in fact she wanted to ask her the same thing, because she had a crush on Trini. And that even stopped her again. Trini quickly turned around and looked at Kimberly and had no idea what to respond to that. But even despite all this, what happened next was something that both of them could never be imagined. Trini walked up to Kimberly and asked if this was the truth. She actually were in love with her, or just this was some sort of prank. Because if this was a prank, she would not be able to handle it. But Kimberly shook her head and said this wasn't a prank. She loves her more than anything. She would never be able to hurt her feelings for even if it was a prank or a mean one. She wouldn't even do that kind of prank to anyone, not even for her friends. Trini was just sitting there, puzzled. She was stunned even all this admitted that Kimberly admitted her true feelings for her. But nevertheless though, Trini and Kimberly then actually shared the very first kiss together. But they both agreed not to tell anyone about this new relationship except for the team members, which they actually told the same afternoon, and everyone was actually very supportive. They were actually very happy to see that this new relationship would happen. But they decided to keep this a secret even from the families for at least the time being because they had no idea how the families would react or even accept that. Because it has happened before that they read some stories and even heard stories about teenagers who had been admit about they like both genders or just one particular same opposite gender or same gender had often been rejected by the both families and friends and even made an outcast, or in worst case, have been thrown out of their home and never been wanted to be seen their daughter or son ever again, unless they had been admitted they was just some prank. But after some time though, about a week later, the prom happened. Even despite the bird when they went to prom first time as the first official date, both was actually quite shaken up. They were scared how at their fellow students and even some of the teachers would react. But even despite they went to the prom, they acted as they were just friends going to the prom together as friends. But it didn't take long though, because only about a few days after the prom had taken place, there were a lot of students actually been asking Kimberly and even Trini if it was in fact true that they were dating. Both of them looked at each other and asked, how did that even come out for the public? Or anyone find that out? There were also some fellow students said that some had seen them being together at the park only about a day after this prom took place, which was true. They actually went to the park to have some time to hang out, and even though they didn't do anything much as remotely as romantic emotions or feelings, but there were only one thing that they did, and that was actually holding hands and cuddling on the bench. But that was only for a brief moment, because they thought maybe someone could see them. And at that, they admitted it was the truth. Soon the whole school was aware of this. But before they had school teachers that told it, and even the families would find out, they had told both families about their new relationship, and they were even expected to have some bad negative effect on it. But it was complete opposite. Trini's parents and even Kimberly's parents was actually quite open and they were quite happy with seeing the daughter being found someone to be with, despite there being a girl. But not only that, despite that, they were actually really happy that Kimberly had found someone like Trini because they knew each other for quite some time, and it is happy that Kimberly had found a girl like herself, well outspoken, very has a hyper personality, and even strong ability to keep focused on the studies and always being with friends. And even for her Trini's parents, though, they were actually equally happy that their daughter had found someone like herself. And it happened that Trini had even invited Kimberly over for dinner with the parents for the first time. Even though, even that they had been support from both families, but Kimberly was still a bit scared how her family would, especially her parents. If Trini's parents would ask her some questions about what she was going to do after they had finished high school, and where if they had any plans for a particular university or college, or any plans for future. But they did actually ask some like questions to both Trini and Kimberly. But it wasn't any such rude manner type of question. They was just randomly asking if they had decided to maybe continue their studies from college to university, or if they would decide maybe just college, and if they had any plans for future, like if there are any direct for type of work. Even though Kimberly and Trini hadn't even really focused much about continued studies at university or college at the moment, but they actually did wanted to do something practical good work in the future so they can be able to support either themselves or one of them, which is an actually good answer for both her parents to be satisfied. But despite having no one Power Rangers, the team itself constantly been fighting against different enemies over time. And during one battle, Trini got seriously hurt. At least not threatening life threatening seriously, but she was at least getting a lot of beating out on one of the battles. One of the bad guys' minions attacked her and managed to put her unconscious on the ground while the rest of the team defeated the enemy and retrieved their friend went back to the base. And it turned out only that Trini had a minor concussion. But from that moment, they both realized, will they be able to be part of the team despite that they didn't want to be in jeopardize each other's relationship in this. Even Kimberly had fear that after this, their relationship would have been ended, and that they would separate there and just remain as friends, or either of them would leave the team. But it wasn't anyone like that. Trini and Kimberly actually did remain solid strong in the relationship. Even after the, even after they finished college or high school, they had decided to go to the same college and different, even though different subject of the classes, but they still went to the same school together, and their relationship remained strong. But despite this, there were a lot of things in their relationship and after all this. Even despite they had left everyone at the Power Rangers team for some point after they went to college. But they would not have to be worried because of that. A new generation of Power Rangers had been emerged from a new group of high school students. Even after all this, though, what was going to happen for Kimberly and Trini after college? They actually lived in a small apartment inside, just near college, though. After college, Trini went to work in a local sports store, which she actually liked because she was a great sportsman spirit low. Kimberly, she wanted a different direction in life. She wanted to be a teacher, or at least a preschool teacher, because she found the calling for being a preschool teacher during college. And even after that, she actually became a preschool teacher and she loved it. But not only did that, despite they both had worries about their finance for the future, but being a preschool teacher actually stable their income and it went perfect for them. But even despite they were living together, it happened that they fight together from time to time, and even despite they always work it out. But after one fight, Kimberly left the apartment and she went to a small hotel for about a couple of days before she went back home. She was afraid that Trini would say that this relationship was finally over, and that would have mean Kimberly would have to find another place to live. But when she went back to her apartment, Trini felt such deeply guilty that this fight to ever have taken place. She admitted that this fight was pointless, or at least feeling ridiculous. So they both made up and promised each other never to fight ever like this ever again. And if they had any problems, they would always work it out, no matter what. And after though, on another almost another 3 more years, Kimberly and Trini actually got married. They actually decided to have a small wedding in the new town they lived. They had invited their parents, but even so they called their old team members. And it was a perfect day. Despite knowing that they were not able to go far away from their honeymoon, but at least their parents and some of their friends had managed to gather enough money for them to go away for a couple of days outside town, maybe to a small lake, which, even despite it was just a small lake cabin, but it was at least a good enough distance from being home, and at least that they were actually together. Even after the honeymoon, they were both happy to have entered a new chapter in their lives together. But there was some part of their lives that were wondering what will happen now. Despite that, they wanted to have a family one day. So they decided maybe to see if there was any options, like adoption or any if there was any some sort of medical treatment since if they could any of them could be pregnant or carrying a baby. Since Trini was in a lot of sports, so she thought maybe that she could handle a pregnancy without any much problem. And in fact, she did. They even had one of the team members as a donor, which no problem because they were always being there for their friends no matter what happened. And that meant, only a few months later, Trini and Kimberly had a baby boy, which they named Patrick. Patrick was really like both her parents and very calm, but always hyperactive when he was young. When Patrick was about maybe 10, they wanted to have a second baby together. So Kimberly, she had decided to maybe try herself. And in fact, she later had a daughter which they named Sarah. Kimberly and Trini was really happy to have not only one, but two children together, even despite having their new lives together, even had moved on from the being a Power Ranger in the past. But they always remember those good times as a Power Ranger. And there was only one memory that Kimberly really shared the most. That was the day when both of them actually admitted their true feelings for each other. Because she realized if she hasn't even asked Trini during the lunch break who this particular person she liked, or if they had even been, or if the Trini had even left the note in Kimberly's locker, she would never have been expressed her feelings for Kimberly, and they would never have shared the first kiss and be dating, and later years later end up being married. But both of them was actually equally happy this has even happened in the first place. And this is how Trini Kwan and Kimberly Ann Hart found a true love got a big family together. The end.